What's up? My name is Ken Dumbo, the MC with the sauce. Don't forget to subscribe to J. Cool.
And we go back to Dr. Fred Meembe for more reaction on the Pretoria High Court ruling that the body of former Zambian President Edgar Lungu be repatriated back to Zambia to be buried there, saying that it is in the public interest. Meanwhile, as we've mentioned, his family is filing court papers to appeal the decision at the Supreme Court of Appeal. Now, back to Dr. Fred Meembe, you are saying that you believe that many Zambian nationals echo the pain, the sentiment expressed by former President Edgar Lungu's sister in court. And what is the litmus test for this? You say you have it on good authority. Is it based on the sentiments that have been publicly expressed, or what is behind that sentiment?
Well, I cannot speak for her. But when a person is in pain, the way she is, so many things are said. In the Zambian tradition, they say when someone is mourning, they have the liberty to say whatever they say, and you don't hold against them. You don't hold it against them. So when one is mourning, they can say whatever they want to say. But it's a painful period for them. Their relative, their brother, their father, their husband, has been in the fridges for almost 60 days now. 2 months. That's a long period. They needed to bring a closure to this. Losing someone dear, someone so close, is a very painful process. Not being able to calmly and quietly bury them is additional pain. The judgment of the court today leaves many questions that deserve honest answers. And I think the family has decided to appeal against that judgment. And I think rightly so. That appeal does not put a closure to everything. Yes, it stops the process of the Zambian government taking the body of Mr. Lungu back to Zambia. It stops that. But it continues the pain of the family for more and more days, which we don't know when this process will end. The best thing would have been for the Zambian government to say, we have done the best that we could in our desire to bring back the body of President Lungu for burial in Zambia. We leave it to the family to decide what they want to do. They are the most affected. They are the most pained than any of us. They feel the burden, they feel the loss.
I want to ask you as a lawyer. As a lawyer, I'm sure you've read the judgment, and I want to talk about your understanding of how the court reached this decision. And it seems to, from what the judgment implies, have looked at the developments up until the point where there was a disagreement between the two families. But the legal test that the Pretoria High Court says it applies, is it in sync with what Zambian law would then say on this matter?
That's what is shocking to some of us who are lawyers in Zambia. The law that the Pretoria High Court was depending on does not exist in Zambia. There is no such law in Zambia that the court was referring to. There isn't any such law. And I can challenge anyone to bring the law. There isn't any such law that the court was depending on. So we are shocked here. To say the least, the judgment leaves many questions that need answers.
Dr. Meembe, is that not as a function of the fact that South Africa applies Roman Dutch law, whereas Zambian law, I understand, is English common law? Is that not where the disjuncture lies?
It doesn't even lie there. Even if both of us were using common law, there would still be the same issues. There would still be the same issues. And also that issue is not strict an issue of the law of contract. It's not an issue of the law of contract. And also, if it was a contract, they had to scrutinize the breaches in the contract.
I wonder if I could ask you to move around, Dr. Meembe, and hopefully see if the connection between us improves. So you say it's not an issue of the law of contract. In fact, that it's more than the issue.
The court does not address those issues. So I think the family has done well to appeal the judgment, although it's at greater pain to them.
So the common cause aspects dealt with by the court in the manner in which they are framed.
Victoria misdirected itself. It has passed in many holes.
Dr. Meembe, I'm asking about...
Without
yes.
sounding disrespectful to the court,
It is really such a pity that such an important conversation that we're having such technical problems. I'm going to see if Dr. Meembe can hear us again, and we're going to really give it a last-ditch attempt to see if we can get some coherent conversation out of this because of just how bad the signal is. Dr. Meembe, so you're saying you wouldn't want to interfere with the courts and obviously their ruling, but it sounded like a criticism or a different perspective was in the offing. Can I ask you to continue with that train of thought?
I think the court also goes on to deal with issues. The orders given were not sought. The remedies were not sought. It was not issues applied for. The bringing in of the Zambian embassy to immediately take the body, that's not what it was sought for. Even the Attorney General had to restrain himself in the interviews he was giving to the media. I think it's good that the family has appealed, and it may help to settle the law better by the Supreme Court.
So do you anticipate that even though it would be based on, as you say, while there are differences in the types of laws that both countries practice, that there may be a different reading, understanding, or perhaps angle of how the Supreme Court deals with this matter? And in that case, on why would you have such confidence? Is it because it's a higher court?
Well, that's why there's a hierarchy of courts. If you are not satisfied with the lower court, you appeal to the higher court. It was not a decoration. It was meant to serve a specific purpose. And there are many instances where the High Court has misdirected itself, and the Supreme Court has come to a different judgment. So this is no exception. The Lungu family are entitled to an appeal, and they have exercised that right to an appeal to the Supreme Court.
So back to the common cause facts that this Pretoria High Court stated. Are they, as my understanding of common cause?
The Pretoria High Court was trying to rely on Zambian law, to apply Zambian law in South Africa. Unfortunately for the Pretoria High Court, the law they were trying to rely on does not exist in Zambia. There is no such law that the court was trying to refer to or basing its decisions on. So we wonder where that court got that law.
Can you expand for our audience so that they understand what you're talking about, Dr. Meembe?
What I'm talking about is, in the Zambian law, the state is required to meet the funeral expenses of the former president. There's no law that says the state should accord the former president a state funeral. There's no law. That's an honor that is given by the sitting president. And it's an honor that he can give to anyone. And even in the past, it has been extended to anyone. An honor can either be taken or rejected. If the president decides to honor you, you can say, I'm not interested in your honor. I have personally rejected an honor. In 2011, the late President Michael Sata decided to honor me on Independence Day for outstanding contribution to journalism in Zambia. I rejected the honor, I refused. And I told him not to remove my name from the books of that ceremony, or I'll not take it nicely. And they had to obey that. There are people who have rejected even Nobel Prize honors. You can't force an honor on a person. It's a privilege.
You raise a very important point, Dr. Meembe, and that is on the holding of office and what that comes with. Because listening to the Attorney General, he seems to imply that this is the right thing to do because, and he actually blatantly says that this will send out a message to other people who hold high office in Zambia that they must understand that these will be their obligations. And I wonder, South Africa has its own state official and provincial official funeral policy manual. Does Zambia have such, and does it stipulate that in taking high office?
Such.
Okay.
We don't have such, unfortunately. If we had such, maybe it would make sense.
But I don't know if in South Africa it actually forces a state president, and I don't speak as a lawyer, but I'm speaking on the basis of a precedent here. We saw former President F.W. de Klerk, who actually was a political an official deputy president post-democracy. He chose not to have a state funeral, and he was granted that right by President Cyril Ramaphosa. So I don't know if there's anything in our law books that forces a state president to also, that it's incumbent on him to be buried in a state funeral. So I want to...
You are very right. Even in the Zambian situation, it's the same. There's no law that forces the government to give someone a state funeral. There's no law. A sentiment is not law. The desire by the government to honor, to give him President Lungu a state funeral is a sentiment. It's not a law. Because the love the Zambian people might have had for Mr. Lungu is a sentiment. It's not a law.
Because I wanted to say it sounds proprietal in nature, that it's almost as if you are signing away quite a bit of your rights when you say, I take on high office as president of Zambia, therefore it means I no longer have the right to opine or even object because
That's what we may desire to see, but that's not backed by a law. There's no law that says what you are trying to say.
So just finally,
a sentiment is not a law.
So let's focus
the
then on
High
the
Court
sentiment.
is not a court of sentiment. It's not a court of feeling. It's not a court of desire. It's a court of law. And it has to be guided by the law. So what law was it applying? Whether Zambian law or South African law, it doesn't exist. They ran away from applying South African law because they thought they could use the Zambian law. But there's no such law in Zambia. There's no such law in Zambia.
Now let's finally conclude with this issue of sentiment.
You can look even at the submissions. You can look at this.
Yes, you can continue, Dr. Meembe.
Submissions. What? Yes.
You're saying you can even look at the submissions?
Yes, there's no law, Zambian law, that was being quoted. And what was being quoted is simply, it says the former president's funeral expenses will be met by the state. There's nowhere in that law where it says the former president has to be buried in such a way. Or what it says, if you incur funeral expenses, you can come and say, government, give us the money we have incurred in burying this former president. But there's no law that says the former president has to be given a state funeral.
All right.
It's not a law.
Dr. Meembe, finally, on this whole issue of sentiment that it is in the public interest, I wonder what harm and further harm from what you've said already will it cause the longer it takes to bury former President Edgar Lungu? Will people who perhaps initially had supported the government's legal action even themselves spurn the further legal action on the side of government to ensure that he is buried in Zambia?
There's no harm that will be done to any Zambian. There's more harm, more pain that is being endured by the family. Right now, most Zambians, including the current president, is going about his business as normal. The ones who are not going about their business as normal is the Lungu family. They are the most affected. And there's nowhere where it says a body of any citizen, regardless of their status in society, belongs to the state. What about if the body is given to the state and the Lungu family decides to stay away and all his friends stay away? He will be buried like a prisoner. Mr. Lungu will be buried like a prisoner. Because if the family stays away, it creates an absurd situation, an absurdity. A law that creates an absurdity is not a good law. A decision that creates such an absurdity is not a good decision. Just imagine the Lungu family in its entirety stay away from the funeral. All the friends of Lungu, social and political, stay away from the funeral. The people he never got on with, which is Mr. Hichilema and his league, will be the ones burying Lungu alone. What type of a funeral is that? What type of a good send-off is that? Is that what they wanted to see? If the Lungu family stay away and they go to the morgue and collect the body, bring it to Zambia and bury on their own, no Lungu family, his wife, his children, his siblings are not there. Yes, they can go and pick up some relatives, some remote relatives, and try to pretend they are close relatives. Yes, they can print T-shirts of Mr. Lungu and pretend they are from his political family.
All right.
But that will create an absurd situation. So that judgment has created more problems, and it needs to be appealed.
And on that note, Dr. Fred Meembe, thank you very much for your time and also your patience for bearing with us, you, our viewers, our listeners, until we were able to establish a more improved line. Thank you very much for your time and your insights. Dr. Fred Meembe is president of Zambia's Socialist Party, sharing his thoughts on the Pretoria High Court's ruling that the Zambian government can...
Thanks for tuning in to JQ News. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe for the latest updates on tech, politics and everything in between. Until next time, stay cool.